This actually was found in the desert by our next speaker, JOXE Malleea and his wife out in the desert. It's a sheep bell, and he gave it to me to try and bring quiet to the masses here. So I don't know whether it works on Basques, but it worked on sheep. I really want to express the BEO's appreciation to Jose coming down. He's got some wonderful pictures to share with us and some great stories. And now that he's here, I can introduce him. I have to tell you, someone just thought I was you, but I told them that you were taller than I was. So.
I used to be.
Introduce JOXE Malleea, instructor of Basque History, University of Nevada, Reno. Also an instructor of Latin American History. A adjunct professor with the Center for Basque Studies, University of Nevada, and the author of a new book that he's selling downstairs, which is a beautiful book, and I suggest you all go take a look at it, called Speaking Through the Aspens. Jose.
I could speak Basque. No? All right. We'll do it in English. About 10 years ago, a lady in Winnemucca, Nevada told me, I never heard a good word said about BLM. And another sheep owner, this was a Basque woman, another Basque sheep owner that runs sheep in California and Nevada, about 6 years ago told me, Betty, hela ematen ziguten. He was talking about the Forest Service people, and he said they always were giving us hell. So these two statements kind of summarize the relationship between the Basques and the federal government for, say, 100 years. If you know what I mean? Okay, so it was always an animosity. They didn't like each other, or at least they tolerated at most. But all of this in the last a decade, I should say, in the last 10 years or so, has changed. Finally, it appears that the federal government, who manages, for example, in Nevada, 85 to 86% of Nevada is federal land. And so they finally realized that they manage a great deal of history, of the Basque history and sheepherder history. So, well, some of the history is right here on some of these are just examples, and well, they told me there's nothing wrong with a plug, so here is the book that I wrote, that this is not my book, but it's a sheepherder's own book, from information collected from trees, about 15,000 trees I collected, carvings, that is, aspen carvings. And so, whether true or not, it's here. I didn't really change much the history that is on trees. And you're welcome to take a look at it downstairs or here. But today, what I'm going to talk about is compare the old relationship between Basques and federal agencies, Forest Service and BLM, and the new relationship. In the old relationship, like I said, those two statements, they didn't like each other. So when about 20 years ago the sheep went down, as you know, there's hardly any sheep herders left, right? Certainly Basque sheep herders. A lot of these sheep camps were abandoned. So today I'm going to talk about sheep camps, and finally the last section of it that I have here, an old sheep herder baking bread, a real one. Okay, we see a lot of magazine write-ups about Basque sheep herder bread, but this one is the authentic one. So that's what I'm going to show you. while I was recording the tree carvings, I was also seeing a lot of the sheep camps. Therefore, let's see. Boy. Yeah, it's the helium, the young, the rim in the background. Okay, a lot of these don't need to any sound. I've been to places like this, and believe it or not, in places like this, just on the other side of the mountain, you find sheep camps. How can you live in a place like this? Well, a lot of Basques really went through this. And here we are going to see a sheep camp built by Basques. This one is, let me see if I can remember all the names. This one is Ormachea's cabin in Cherry Creek, I think it is, but not the Cherry Creek in eastern Nevada, but Cherry Creek in Clan Alpine Mountains. That's central Nevada. Okay? And as you can see, this kind of construction is, you know, very familiar to Basque with stone. Okay, I'm sorry. What I need is a remote. Yeah, but it doesn't work. And here we don't have a whole lot of written information, but I did find one name, and we're going to show in a minute. Right now, these things are dilapidating. They are abandoned, only used by hunters once a year during hunting season. And yeah, there's some names in there. Probably the people who built it or rebuilt it, because these things have been rebuilt more than once. And here, that this is the original one, appears to be, is Joe Onandia. I don't know if you can see it. And is dated August 8, 1934. Or let's see, is it 35? Right here? All right. Okay, and I have quite a bit of history of this guy, but we're going to just let it go. So it sits there abandoned. So here comes the new relationship between the federal government and this history that remains in the mountains forgotten. The federal government now has started to look into these cabins and trying to do something about them or with them, actually rebuilding them, reconstructing them, and trying to save some of it. So there you have it, and there's a lot of history attached to that, I'm sure. And here we have another one, and this one I'm going to turn the sound on. Another sheep camp. This one,
The bread oven at Wheeler Sheep Camp was built in 1929 from the date on the cement. It was built by Hank Gallus, his father.
can you hear it?
And up until about 1976, or shortly thereafter, it was a standing oven with a shed over it. And sometime between 1976 and now, it's been almost totally destroyed by Kyber splash.
So there you have it. He is Michael Baldrica, federal archaeologist in Sierraville, California. And in 1992, this is what we found left of the sheep camp. This was a major sheep camp once. It had 2 cabins, and the family lived there throughout the summer, and they burned it. The Forest Service burned these cabins down. Then they felt sorry, and we started rebuilding at least the oven. And the video will show how August the 6th, 1992, third day here on the job. Some volunteers working hard, as you can see. His father ran this place in the 40s and 50s. Hank Arias was here. And Hilario Portueta. Portave. The door is in. See how fast it goes up? We didn't have blueprints, and finally I said, whoa, this is too tall.
You have to pretend.
But we had quite a bit of publicity, actually. This one is Wheeler Sheep Camp. It's near Truckee. And today we use these all the time for bass picnics and to have bildocha, lamb feast or whatever. And it's a great place to go. Very few people know about it, so if you want to go one day here, let me know. And so this is how it looks now. And the firing was in, they have all of this now is changed. They have a permanent sign there. Martin Gallues was from Navarra, and his children live in Reno. Yeah, we fired it. Today is the 10th of October 1992, and at 10:10 a.m. we fired the old oven.
I think that's kind of the key to this whole thing. The interest is going to really build up. It does follow. All right, we're at the stage now. We've got to flex a little more. We're 11:45. We have a group of cooks working down at the fast oven.
Put the lid on it, and it's ready to go in the oven. About 30 minutes.
We got to let it raise till the dough gets lit.
This was a big deal. All the food service personnel was here.
Then put it in. We did, yeah, we did too, didn't we?
Sure did.
Okay, we let it raise for 30 minutes, and then put it in.
Demonstration will go in pieces and parts.
Right, we only did that.
Oh, okay.
Similar?
No. Grew up with, played Little League with and everything, and he's real active with the Washoe Tribe.
See, we had a big holiday, festa out there, and the majority of the people were, of course, workers of the Forest Service. We're going to see something here. Come on.
where mine is.
That's yours.
That's mine?
I want to do
Oh yeah? I don't want to have to try it.
Okay, this is Jenkins Point. Jenkins used to be a big sheep man in Nevada and in California. This
What are the
sheep camp is in
sheep camps?
by Lake Davis
Sheep company.
near Portola,
Near Lake
California.
Davis. Portola, California.
And the Forest Service has done some work. It has put a fence around the, as you can see, destroyed oven. This is a big oven, the biggest one I have seen. It needs to be repaired, and one day we will probably do it. Most of these ovens are built the same way. They have brick inside and rock outside, and most of them have a cover because that keeps the snow off the roof. This oven was built by a fellow by the name Urrutia. I don't know much about him other than that, Urrutia, although his wife is still around in Reno. And this is the cabin. I didn't find any names or anything in this cabin, which is unusual. When the Forest Service was destroying these cabins, they were about to destroy one more, the one up in Whiskey Creek, which is in the Granite Chief Wilderness. And I told them, well, what do you have to show for 150 years of sheep herder history and Basque history? And I think that caught them by surprise, and they were able to even twist the laws actually, because no man-made
What's the
cabin.
name of this place? Poco Valley?
Okay, let me finish my story, but we're going to come back to Whiskey Creek, so I'll continue. This is Poco Valley Sheep Camp. I don't know what Poco is. P-O-C-O. Although,
In Spanish.
no. Okay. These camps were never named after Little or anything like that. They were named after a person or something. Yes.
There was a Peter Poco who was a sheep man back at the turn of the century in the Central Valley.
Very good. Yes, and also earlier than that, up in Cedarville area, there was a Pachita Poco. So, but I don't know whether that's his name, who named this, so there you have it, but I'll just show you the sheep camp. And this is in Plumas,
Sheep camp?
Plumas National Forest, which is around Quincy, California. Most of these sheep camps had 2 cabins. You can see this one has. There's names in there, of course. And if the camp was of a certain size, they also had one of these, an oven. And the ovens are usually, like I said, built similarly, but they're different. This one, for example, is it's elaborate. You know, it has the date, of course. They all have the date, 1936, but that's probably the rebuilt one.
Iron bars to hold the brick.
And this has a chimney in the same place as the previous one. Yeah, kind of low. Yeah, that's interesting. Low chimney. Probably smoked a lot. Wouldn't pass pollution standards.
This iron piece was lying next to the oven and appears to have been the original piece
Original part.
of the original oven, which we don't know when it was built. And so 36 would be a later rebuilt.
Now these ovens are in beautiful places. There's always near a creek and nice big meadows. And so, as you can see, it's like a little garden in there. And today they're totally abandoned. The flowers, for example, I think I got some flowers in the video. Wildflowers. If you haven't never been up in this high Sierra, it's a great place. The grass, of course, is about that tall. And this is almost every year. So in one cabin, they kept the food, and sometimes even chickens for fresh eggs. On the other cabin, they slept. And the bigger cabin was usually where they lived and they slept and they cooked. And the little cabin was usually sometimes built out of stone or built very low, and that's to keep it cooler and to keep the meat and other provisions. There is one cabin in the Sierra that is built right on top of the creek, so the coolness of the creek keeps the cabin, the pantry, cool. Very ingenious. See the flowers? And these are, of course, right there. I mean, I'm not just chasing after them. They're right there. And look at this. There's a tree standing right there.
Vida triste.
Vida triste. Do you understand that? Here's another sheep camp. This sheep camp is in Humboldt County, Nevada. Again, some flowers all around by the creek that grow in the high country, even in September. Even in October, you can still find these flowers, and nobody really cares for them. They just grow. Which, every time I see this, I think of how much criticism the sheepherders have received about pollution and polluting the land and destroying the land and the range and all that. How come these flowers continue growing year after year after year? How do they come back if they destroy the range? And it makes me think that it was in the sheepherder's own interest to take care of the range. It was their livelihood. So why would they destroy it? I think a lot of these criticisms are unfounded. But it all comes from politicians or from cattlemen or from people of the Forest Service or BLM who are perhaps born and raised in the East, and then they come here, they don't know anything about the West. And so, anyway, here's the oven in this place. Built in '57, but once again, this is probably a rebuilt oven by Jean-Baptiste Baranich and Urelts, Michel Urelts. And this one is very different. That has a place for kindling underneath to keep kindling dry, as you can see. And this particular oven was almost destroyed by a BLM official, whom I know, almost destroyed. How many stories, don't you think? If we could have snuck in a tape recorder somewhere in there, you know, when all those nights, well, the sheepherders were getting together and eat beans and drink wine and bread, maybe even no wine. All right, the video continues. This is Page Meadows, up in the east side of Lake Tahoe, California. This one was used by several sheep outfits. And again, this one is built with a platform a little different. But it has the iron bar in here. It has the brick inside, and it's cemented across. And we will see the builders' names. This one was built by Steve Landa. Steve Landa of Reno. They were sheep owners. He built a lot of the ovens around that area. Steve Landa. Here we have someone else's name, an Irish fellow as well, Flanagan, fellow by the name Paul Flanagan. I apologize for the video. This is like 20th generation, so it's not very good. Okay, now we've got coming up a quick. We're going to Jarbidge, Nevada. Have you been in Jarbidge, Nevada? No? It's not bridge, and it's not the other one, but it's Bidge. Okay, B-I-D-G-E. And, okay, here's the Steve Landa and Paul Flanagan, 1953, but again, this is probably a rebuild of it. Okay, this is Jarbidge, the Goicoechea sheep camp. And a couple of years ago, about 25 people all across the America spent a week out there recording tree carvings. And we recorded about 1,000 of them. This is the sheep camp. Of course, we have to have those for service. Okay. And you have seen these pictures downstairs. This is Whiskey Creek Sheep Camp. And I'm going to clip-ins, video clips of rebuilding this cabin. This big tree was sitting on the cabin, and it had destroyed the roof. Nabo and other volunteers went twice, 2 different years up there, and to do all the necessary stabilization. This is the only camp in the United States that is protected. This is the one that I was telling you about, that they were going to take it down because it is sitting on a wilderness area, and the rules are clear. No man-made structures can stand on wilderness areas. Let's see here. I want to show you this guy.
Whiskey Creek.
Whiskey Creek, huh? And
Kelly Dixon.
I'm Juanita Spencer. Thomas.
Hi.
I'm Sharon Chandler, and I heard that Juanita was...
and these
You're
are the
from-
names of the volunteers.
See, the second question is where you're from.
Oh, okay.
Elko, Nevada.
You have to pay him down somewhere.
Okay.
And,
Yes.
You're from.
Oh,
See, thank you.
Thank you.
Miguel Lopategi.
And Big Mike.
A lot of people know this guy.
So where you from, Big Mike?
Winnemucca, Nevada. Winnemucca.
Here. Basque.
Yeah, he does speak Basque.
And this guy's an American from San
I'm
Francisco.
Richard Stuckey, and I'm from San Francisco.
District Archaeologist, Turkey Ranger District.
Okay, here we are dismantling.
So those are not nailed?
Yeah, they are, but we're pulling them down like it's run with a hacksaw.
Stuff like that?
Retired from the Forest Service a year and a half ago.
Yeah, this is the guy who saved it. He was the ranger of Truckee Ranger, well, Tahoe National Forest Ranger, and his name is John Skinner. And he made a decision that they were not going to tear it down. The problem with this, when we found it in '97, when NAVO and the University of Nevada and the Forest Service teamed up to repair it. And this is Granite Chief Wilderness. You have to walk about 5 hours. You can't drive. You can't. Everything has to be done by hand, and it's pretty steep. But old Michael, Big Mike from Winnemucca, made it, and he's in his 70s, and it was a great time. The problem with the cabins was not only the trees sitting on top of the roof, but the logs were rotted, several logs. So we had to jack up the whole thing and put new logs in there. Quite an undertaking.
That's of course. Well, yesterday
This is the oven in there, beautiful
was
oven.
July 26th, today's 27, and about 8:38 fired up this Whiskey Creek oven.
Okay, my name is Mark Lambert. I'm on the Forest Hill Ranger District, which is just on the other side of the wilderness. We have about half the wilderness, and I've been coming in here for about 23 years. It's the first time I saw this cabin, and it was in pretty good shape 23 years ago. And because of the dirt on it, it's slowly rotted. So now
Log, the first one is in place.
See, we
It's
jacked
going to
up.
be a chore.
So we end up with exact measurement. So the last two logs will fit together, and they'll come in from that end, set right in, and should be fine to take home and finish up.
And you are?
John Platt from the Passport in Time group. That's the entire, this is a
The whole cabin?
preliminary sketch of the whole encampment.
So good for is tighten up. And there it
Last
goes.
log.
Okay, well, if it gets tighter, let's go up with that a little bit.
So we have volunteers from
That's
all
it.
over the place: Texas, Oregon, Idaho, California, Nevada.
Mine's just about loose. Me too.
This was Passport in Time. It's a program.
Give me some pressure.
Nationwide.
It says one's on the
Oh man, piece of cake.
drop the whole thing.
Second jack is being lowered.
Yeah. The least amount that you need to stick that in there, the better.
Oh, yeah, you're going to get trouble.
So we'll see if the whole thing falls apart now.
Put a hacksaw, cut it off over here. It'll rust away. Boy.
There it
Oh,
falls.
you got that white bar.
Big
You
bar
got
out.
big bar out of there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
That came out a lot.
July 29, Thursday,
So that's it.
1999.
The completed
And this morning
project.
we finished. And here's the workers looking back at their job accomplished. In order to preserve it, a big swale was
Yeah, we
cut.
took care of the, so that
Cut
the
the
rain
dirt.
no longer would just go against the
Moved away
logs,
from
but away from
the
the logs.
foundation.
So we had to cut a ditch around the cabins. These are some of the crew. There were many more people out there, but it was 3 days, and some of them had to leave. Okay, now baking bread. I shivered a baking bread. It was 1991? 93.
Era cotsida na Mercedes.
And here's those of you who
Violin check. Era cotsida provetta. Altsavori ve.
Biscayan basket,
Eta prezdao se do.
Biscayan basket, very good.
Ja, bestiek. Eta honek ogisok, bost, ezta?
Bai.
Eta nosko, zenbat egunerako di honek?
Honek, 15 egunerako.
15 egunerako?
15 days.
Agundoko txue?
Jaten espaitu bai.
Jaten espaitu bai.
Orto bida kontu,
Nire diferentia.
Guiza zelan egin duz.
Hoxe egin dut,
Okay, here's the recipe.
lehenengo ure epela eta labaduria ipintzen dut. Plater baten. Gero, labaduri gore etorten danean, botaten dut beste balde handire ure. Eta nazi, gero uru naz masal. Eta gero mazetoten nien, ipintzen dut toki bat epela edo hola, eta gero gora etorten da. Eta gero gora etorten da nien, atza bajatu egiten dut. Eta masa usta pizkat, da atza gora etorten da nien, gero ipini dutxuta.
You get that?
Da, gero usta dutxutan datorren nien, laban sartu.
Eta bibide zaitik egin duzu bat.
Hogei batxua urten narelako.
Okay.
Okay.
Well, after the video, I can explain this.
Azpi jartzen. Hori zer dani?
Ladriluek ez dia goten zuen jebakarrik ez dugu ladrilu Brazio bideu beko ladriluek berotzeko azpize ogize kosinetak. Da gero hori Brazie dan amaitzen danean kanpora eta sartzen dio ogizek eta kankura biozu berue zema dauen. Da hor berue honen beste igual fosforo bat goiko tximinizen hogei bat konta bate hartzen duzula eta ordu listo da. Eta gero, ogizek egiteko ordu bete terdi laban.
Pues zea zekien duzu.
Zu egiten dut lumizarra egurraz.
Eta txamizuk ez du balizo?
Txemisuek balizo deu, zerien lurrien zuluen jaiteko, baina hemen ez du balizo.
Hori zelan da ba?
Txemisuk brazaik ez du egiten, momentuko brazi baina gero hile egiten da. Ein egin txemisuaz, txemisu lodizaz. Baina asko bada egurren, egiteko. Eta lurrien zuluen ja, hobie da txemisuen. Eru hau da txemisuen, ja. Eta lurrien golpien sartzu zu hogize. Eta gero, tapeten da txemisuen, ganetik eta azpitik eta untatzen doan ontza.
Ontza.
Hala egin dut, lurrien egiten duten nien txemisuek. Baina laban asko hobeto egiten da, egun honekin. Gure bizi modua hau da. Handi ikasuen hogizein, kampu egin
Eta zer?
Endiko bizia.
Eta kusatu zatzu?
Neri oin lehen gaztien itzen ninen asko, baina ora geroa eta geixo.
He's saying that when he was young, he didn't like this kind of life, but now he likes
Eta
it.
hoizetan zabiz?
Oinari azpi jartzen. Ipini Braziek astauda dela eta gero kanpora dario dauz.
Hareke 10 edo 12 hobi edo errete zituen?
Ja, gure amape, bai. Ala etxo
Eta hemen zema sartu leikez?
Hemen bost. Txikitze da, bost zei.
Hau noke indaben? Noke indau hau?
Hau landie egana iaita da. Frank Kerro, frantzes batek egina.
Eta nahi ban hau?
Ez dakit, hoxe ez detut esaten ahal zein urtetan bai azpaldi.
Hori tramperu zan?
Tramperu eta aurretik zan hemen hartzaine eta fentzak egiten eta gauze asko. Ja, honen labak hierba da. 10 edo 15 urte aurretik egin aldia.
Berrogei zen, berrotan barrein ingunun?
Bentoa sola, bai. Ja.
Frank Erro.
Frank Kerro.
Bai.
Ja. Behin batek karta eskribi zuen, Frank Erro, Valle de Erro.
Orduan etzan, frantzesaldekua, bai, Nafarra zan.
Nik ez dakit, Valle de Erro egin zuen edo, bere anaien bat horre.
Ba, Nafarra.
Na,
Bai,
nire izena Candido Lano, Antxia, Amatarra.
Antxia.
Ja,
Non haizo?
baserrien, okizko baserrien.
Okiz. Zuri danak okiz atetzu ez da?
Hala ensatezte, bai.
Ema beneketa. Zelan?
Well, 1958 urtean, etorren nintzen Ameriketara, hanbe ondo onginen baina. Diruek balitozun hango baino behitxoa eta zoza behitekotan. Da gero, beti hementxeta, guztan hementxeta. Beti iten dut, buelta bat egiten duen, baina atza onaxe eta gero oin hementxe gelditu. Emarrik erosin nituen da. Neure Amerikan lagun bateaz, da oin hementxe bizigera.
Okay. This is pretty much, the bread really comes out good, thanks to him. Because we got talking and drinking a little bit beer, you know, and we forgot about the bread. And it came out a little burned, but really it was good bread. Anyway, this is pretty much...
Tene, ez dago zuen...
Oh, I want to show you, no, I'm sorry. I want to show you his thermometer. He's got a thermometer that he uses to calculate the temperature of the oven.
Bilurrik, ze, dana behar berdi edate. Horten zua iten alde omen dizen, bilurrik gabe. Beste bat gauza handize hori.
Baizta?
Bai, hemen ez baita gazik, ez olako gauzeik eta zuen dierda. Jateko tzabe, beti jateko ez duna. Hala.
See, there was 5 years drought in Nevada, and this was the first wet winter, so he's saying that now this year they could cook and they could build fires before they couldn't. Now, if you ever have done this, the biggest problem with bread is that it falls flat on you. But look at him, he treats it with a fence stick and...
Hori tapa astun hori altzeten deu?
Bai.
Ez tozu zaratu bide bat kide?
Egitzen dola esan zuen.
Ondio sobrera berotxu daua, atetik eta txilintik urteten deu lamadiek eta gero zarratzen da.
Eta hori zarratzozu, tapetozu? Arritxuaz. Eta zenbat ordu bideu honek berotzen?
Honeko berotzen da ordu eta erdi.
Zango dute zueiken?
Ja, ordu eta erdi.
Ordu betian?
Ordu eta erdi.
Eta honek arrizaz ala ladrioa zein edo hau?
Hau ladrilloa zen jedau eta gero arri espeziala eskinetan.
Aha.
Ez da izen erre.
Ha.
Ja, ostantzik ez dugu alizo, ze apurtu egin da eta jauzi.
He says this special
Orduan ondo inde da.
Bai. Hau arreze dau ekarrik, adeletik eta jonamak abitxartien dau honetako arreze asko. Ta handizik ekarreze dione. Jetzet, danak urten zaitzen, eta gero sobera berua dau eta pikendu ostabe.
Eta hori zelan dakizu ba? Bero ala...
Eskua eskankuleton nik,
Ia.
neure eskua.
Bai. Bai. Bai.
Hold it. He's got a more sophisticated thermometer than that.
Sino, 오가이바 본타와테 지민이기 paspor üşütse bana oradan da onda. Ogay pontawatte. Maya on beruida.
Peruida.
Vai.
Egli sta barridoria.
Ya onya.
See, he's got to count 20,
Seondo bi iruri şotsende.
so it's too high.
Aha.
Awa şille joydeni awa riçwe ostantin no jaya rengo diye.
Ah.
Ay.
Orada orada sürü termometro.
Orida ne?
All right. Any questions?
How often you bring that guy to vacation?
He's dead.
It's dead. It's on the big vacation.
That's the biggest one. Well, for those of you, I apologize. Yes.
During the time that the BLM was trying to burn or tear these buildings down, what was the role of the State Historic Preservation Officer, both in Nevada and in California?
Where was the, I guess they weren't doing their jobs.
Yeah, apparently so.
Well, after all, this was just a small minority, and they were foreigners. They didn't even speak English. They didn't have any political power. That explains it.
Yeah, but these things are either historic or archaeological resources
Yeah.
that will be protected under the Historic Preservation Act today.
Right.
Have any steps been taken to
And-
accomplish this now?
And I guess now they are finally realizing, and they have to do something about it. I hope this book helps, because I proved to them that there's a lot of history on these trees, on these sheep camps, and a lot of these names on trees are not even in the census, the U.S. Census. So these are people who came here, stayed here, worked in the sheep maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 years, went back, never left a record anywhere in America. So they're here. Yes.
I can answer part of his questions. Most of the BLM land, Forest Service land, is mandated by Congress. Congress has special interest groups, especially from the east, that are pressuring Congress to pass laws to restore the national forest lands back to their original state prior to the intervention of grazing or logging or those interests. So that's where all that pressure comes from. And most of your forest districts and ranger districts respond to those regulations, and they have to do studies on that every 20 years, and every 10 years they have to develop a plan. And it's based on what the Forest Service, what Congress mandates. So that's where those regulations come from. And they come from special interest groups that are pressuring their congressional interests back in Washington. So that's how it starts.
Yes. Anything that is over 50 years, according to the National Register, the rules of National Register should be looked at and perhaps even managed or protected. Anything over 50 years. Yes. But I think a great deal of the credit here needs to go to the University of Nevada, to the Basque Studies, for showing it to them that these need to be protected, and there is, because they thought this was just doodlings. They didn't have, they had two words for these things, doodlings and pornography. Either pornography or doodlings, and they're neither, they're neither. So I think they have now have a change of heart, and right now they have this camp that I showed you, Whiskey Creek, plus 2 or 3 more in Lake Tahoe area that they're looking at preserving, or somehow protecting anyway. Yes. So, but it turned around from the time when Betty Hela Matensiguten. They were always giving us hell.
Any other questions?
Do you know of a camp in the Westwood area, Jenkins' own camp?
No, I have not seen, but there are several, is this in Lassen County? Okay, they're looking, they called me, and they are looking at some camp area they have not identified as fast, but there are 2 ovens in there.
Oh, really?
And that's very unusual. Usually there's only 1 oven in a
In the
camp.
Westwood area?
I don't know where, but it's from Susanville about 30 miles that way.
That's right.
To the north?
Yeah.
Yes.
Ask your questions while you have the opportunity. Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, Roger.